Alright, so in the previous lesson, we finished the shader for the raspberry. And one of the final two shaders left now is the shader for the spoon and a shader for the plate. So in this one, we'll take a look at building a metal shader for the spoon. Okay, so what I'm going to do, first of all, is we'll have to set up a few things. So firstly, let's hide all the berries, like we don't need those. And I also want to just readjust the second camera on the spoon. We can hide the main berry as well, so that doesn't really take up any time. Okay, the other thing you want to do is you want to come to the spoon and add the redshift object parameters. And this particular this is a shader where we will use a little bit of displacement. So what you want to do is you want to come to tessellation and displacement and turn on enable tessellation and enable displacement. Beforehand itself, I'm going to get the displacement scale down to 0.1. Once you've set up that much, then we are in a good enough position to start working on the shader. Okay, so let's come to ShopNet and I will create a new shader for the spoon. So again, just take a redshift network. Let's call it metal. Or let's just call it spoon, like that's simpler. And let's jump in here, we'll create an RS material and we will assign it. So let's come to the spoon, which is here, and material, and we'll assign the, okay. Alright, so if we come to Photoshop, then this is the displacement map that I have. So if you remember that we had done UVs for the spoons, like if I come in here and if we check the main file itself, I'll just split it vertically and I'll change this to UV, and there you go. So those are the spoon UVs that we have. So so I've basically got like a displacement map which is sort of in there, okay, in that much of an area. Okay, so that's pretty much in place. Yeah, the shading sometimes gets a little weird. That's fine. Like we can try to come back. Yeah, there you go. So it's a viewport issue. Okay, so we've assigned everything. Let's start off with a render and we'll continue from there. So, and the other thing I want to do is come into ROPNet and turn on IPR again. So turn on progressive rendering. Now, what we want is essentially a metallic spoon. So I don't want to, what I'm going to do to set up metal is go via the PBR method, which is like the metalness roughness method, because I find it a little bit simpler to work with. So with the metalness network, you can keep the diffuse color to white or the weight to 1. But in our case, we're just going to get the weight to 0. It doesn't really matter. We will switch the BRDF to GGX and give it a little bit of roughness to start with, even though we will get a map again, later for that. And change the Fresnel type from IOR to metalness, okay, and get the metalness to 1. And there you go. Since we have our multiple HDRs and everything in place, you get a pretty decent looking, metallic spoon right from the get-go. Okay, so we want to do a couple of things. The first thing is let's set up the displacement. Okay, so we are going to take an RS texture and we will pick up the map. So just come up here to cake and texture and we have spoon displacement. Like if you want to check this, I can just connect this to the out color and let's bring it to the reflection metalness. Okay, and if we stop and re-render, then it should show you what it is. There you go. See, there's your metalness map. But we don't want it there right now. Okay, what we want is a displacement map. So take a displacement, so you'll get RS displacement, and this connects to the texture map. And then you take the out and we plug it to displacement. Sorry, not bump, goes to displacement. So you're going to get something ridiculous like that. Now, the one thing we want to do is we want the this is 0 to 1, but what we want is the white to remain where it is and the black to go down. So the new range has to be readjusted. Firstly, get the scale down to 0.1, so it's a little less, and then we need to readjust the range. So get this to -1 and 0, and see, there you go. So that works a little bit better. Let me just re-render that once. It was looking a little weird, but if you stop and re-render, it comes back. See, now what's happening is, like, if I get this to 0, you'll notice that the spoon remains where it is, and it's just when I get it to 0.1, the white sort of, or the black sort of pushes down. So 0.1 is good, like this is where we want it. The next thing we want is, we want to set up a few things. Like, we want the depressed area to be a little bit darker, like it has a little bit of dirt. And then I want to add a little bit of scratches to this, and a little bit of, use a noise map to add some dirt. So let's take this guy. We will take a ramp. I'll plug it into the ramp and set this to Alt and plug this out to reflection metalness. Okay, we primarily need to control two maps, which is the metalness and the roughness. So this is fine. I'm going to take this and get it to about like a medium gray. Yeah, so it's a little bit darker. And then we can also increase like the noise amount. So it gets a little noisy, and increase the frequency. Let's just see what it looks like. So I'm going to keep this to a side. We'll take another RS material. Let's plug this into the diffuse of this just to see what we have. And in the second material, I'm going to get rid of the reflection. So I just have like a diffuse color and connect that. Yeah, so that's basically what we're getting. Okay. But let's do something. Let's get this a little higher. I want to be able to see the white dots. Yeah, there you go. So now you can sort of make out the dots in there, which looks better. Like within a metalness shader, it becomes a little difficult to try and spot it. But yeah, there you go. See, now you also have like a little bit of noise in there, which doesn't look too bad. Just increase the frequency a little bit. So you get like a few patches like that. Okay, I think this is nice. This is a good map to have. Okay, so if we plug the out color from the original material back, there you go. So now you have like the bump over there, and I can make this a little darker. Yeah, so that looks decent, bit like dirt, okay, in there. Okay, so that is step one. The second map that we want is to have like a little bit of noise in there. Okay, let's keep this just in case we want to, view the basic map again. So the second thing we want is like an RS noise. Okay, so let's take a noise map and again plug the out color to metalness so we can see what we have. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, so this is like a general dirt layer. So the way you want to build a metal shader is like either ways. Either you're controlling specular and diffuse and roughness, or if you're going with the metalness method, then you're controlling metalness and diffuse and roughness. In our case, the diffuse is black, so we don't have to worry about it. But yeah, primarily you're controlling, at least the specular and the roughness. Those are the two main things you need to control. So this is technically what we're building is like the specular map. So which defines which areas are going to shine. And then the roughness map defines which areas are shiny and which areas are rough, primarily. So let me just increase the noise amount here. And then change this to fractal. Increase complexity to about 6 or 7. And then we'll just work with, if you lower the amplitude gain, you'll get like more fine grain noise like that, which is not bad. And we can sort of play around with the frequency scale. Like if you get it too high, it will be very visible. So about 2.5 is decent. You can also try doing a bit of distortion. And then if you want it as patches, you can kind of control the min-max amount. See, so you'll get it something like that. We don't want that. That's not something that we want here. So we can just sort of, the point is to sort of like break up the specular. See, your specular is not that clean anymore, But get this to like a medium gray again. We don't want it black and white. Okay, so that's roughly the noise map that we have. Then, like what you can do is, if you don't want to modify the basic noise map, which is okay, but we can always plug this in through a gradient. Like that's always a good idea. Because then if you want to use the same thing for like roughness, then we can take a second gradient and the noise map remains intact. So take this and plug it in there. Again, set it to Alt, plug that out. Yeah, so the result will be the same, except now I'm changing the gray over here, And then you have options to do stuff like this. Like if you want it to be, like a little bit patchy, see, you can do that. Of course, we don't want that. So, keep it soft enough. The third thing we want is a scratch map. Okay, like just to have like scratches on this. So I have a scratches map which I have downloaded. Let me just show you that. So I come to open and yeah, that's the scratches map that I have. It is downloaded from the net. And what I've done is I have like a more extreme version of this. It's the same map. I just increased the brightness contrast. Okay, so we'll work with this one instead of that one. You can go with either, whichever one you want. But I think this is nicer because we already have, the contrast in place. Okay, so again, take an RS texture. And it's called scratches. Like scratches one is the less contrast one, and then scratches is the high contrast. Okay, so we'll just pick up scratches, and again take an RS ramp. We'll plug this in to input and plug that to metalness. And let me just stop this. Yeah, change this to Alt. Yeah, I keep forgetting that bit. You should see scratches. There you go. So what we want is, this is fine. I want the scratches to be brighter and the spoon to be a little darker, but not at this level. So one of the things I want to do firstly is get the scale to 2 and 2. So we get a little more tiling. Actually 2 and 1 doesn't look bad. Yeah, like a little vertical scratches. I think that's not a bad idea. Okay, I think that's fine. And the next thing we want to do, like if you want to adjust gamma or something, we can enable the gamma override. And see, so that will give you like a little more, which is not a bad idea either. We can just adjust the gamma, then make it brighter, darker over here itself. That's why we also have the ramp. Okay, so we'll keep the gamma, but let's just take, or no, just keep it off. I think I like the scratches where they are. Okay, and then we'll take the black over here and then make it like a medium gray and get this slightly darker. Yeah, so if we let it render through, like you should be able to see some scratches. It's like, see, you can see there, and like there's a little bit of stuff. It's subtle enough, but it is visible. Like if let's do a snapshot and we'll see it with and without the gamma. So if we enable the gamma, I think that's better. See, you're seeing a lot more here. Like otherwise the top of the spoon, like this area is a little too blank. Yeah, I think with gamma is better. And you can also sort of adjust it. So if you want to kind of, bring it closer or something, make it stronger, you can do stuff like that. Okay, so these are the 3 maps that we want. Okay, so now the question is just multiply everything together. So take a multiply and 1 and 2, and if we plug that in, let me just do a snapshot so we can then compare. See, so now you have like a little bit of noise along with the scratches. And then if we take another multiply, you can take a normal multiply. You don't need like a vector multiply, because metalness is like a float value. Okay, so we don't need to have, yeah, so that gives me like the additional dark area over here. So this gives me the basics of what I want as far as the metalness map is concerned. The second map we want to control is the roughness. Okay, so let's take care of the roughness as well. Primarily, like I don't care about the displacement texture over here, but primarily I want to work with the scratches. So let's do one thing. Let's do a Control-C, Control-V for the scratches. I'll do like an Alt here. Yeah. Actually, let's get this higher because roughness shows up before metalness in the material list. Okay, so let's take this a little here. and I'll do out color, more, base properties, and you will find reflection roughness. There you go. Perfect. So the problem right now is that what you want is, like, for the metalness map, everything will be more towards white. Okay, because you're primarily just dealing with specularity. With roughness, everything is more towards black, because white means it is completely rough, so it's almost diffuse. Okay, so what we want is, like, we want it slightly rough, so everything has to be like black and dark gray. Okay, so the first thing we want is like, get this to black. See, so you'll get, you know, that back, and let's keep that here. Yeah, and then keep this to like a light gray. And what I want to do is, yeah, let's keep them here, you know, like a little bit like a light gray, dark gray. Okay, now this is, what you can do is, you want the scratches to be more rough, or you want the spoon to be more rough. And what I realized visually is, like, it's better if the scratches are less rough. Okay, so what you do is, you sort of flip it around. So if you do that, then you get something like this. Now this is way too much. Okay, but what we can do is get this, like, that's fine. Get this a little low. But yeah, there you go. See, that looks a little more interesting. Like, if you flip it around to, you know, like, have the scratches be more rough and this be less rough, then you get a different result. But I don't think it looks as good as this. See, this looks a little bit better. This isn't bad either. You can sort of pick and choose. I kind of like this one more, where the spoon is a little more rough. At the end of the day, you still want to keep the values fairly subtle. You know, that's a big thing. Like, even if you're going to make this rough, then you want to keep it, like, you know, like somewhere around here. Yeah, I think that's okay. This is good enough. Like, you're getting the scratches and everything, and it's not, yeah, don't overdo it, but you can sort of play around with it till you get something that you're happy with. Yeah, if you want to overall increase, you know, like, if you feel like it's not bright enough, you can put like a color correction at the end and try to adjust the gamma. You know, that works well as well. Like, what we can do is, we can just take a color correct, like, I can plug that in there, and we can try to sort of adjust the gamma to make it brighter or darker. So if you feel like the map is a little too dark and the spoon isn't bright enough, just put a color correct for the metalness and just adjust it, so it gets brighter. Like, this is darker and then that's brighter, you know, so you can work that way. Yeah, and then along with this, if you want, we can add like a noise map as well. Okay, so the same noise map, which is here, we can try to add those two for roughness and see what we get. Like, if I do Control C, Control V, not that one. Let's just see what we get, you know. So I'll just plug this in directly to roughness. See, so that's a noise map. And again, like, take this to black, or like a medium gray, or a very dark gray essentially, and then this comes to like here. See, so your map here starts to break up, like this specular, you can see it breaking up. So you can effectively do a combination of both of them. Okay, like, I can take an add here, like, don't take a multiply, these need to be added together. So we can just take an add for both of these and just see what we get. So let's do one thing. Let's do a snapshot of this, and we'll do a separate snapshot of just the scratches, and then we'll take a look at what happens when we combine those two. Yeah, so this is our scratch map. Okay, so now let's just combine the two together and see what we have. So if I do a snapshot of this, and then we'll put in the add over here, and there you go. So that's, you know, both of them, the noise map and this thing. Let's try to adjust this. So this is way too much. Let's lower that, and let's try to lower this as well. But yeah, there you go. So now you have a noise map and your scratches, and they both sort of combine together to give you, you know, a fairly rough looking spoon. Okay, and as a final thing, I don't think this is needed, but if you want, you can use it as a bump map, the scratches. As I said, I don't think it's necessary, but it can add like a fine bit of detail on it. So let's take a bump map, and this map is going to be pretty strong, you know, so let's put it into bump. and get the height scale down to 0.05, and you have like the min max range. So also get the max range, the new range max to about 0.1. So we're going to start off by keeping it very subtle. So then just take this and we will plug it to the bump map. Okay, let me stop this. Let's save this file. Yeah, there you go. See, I told you, it's like even at these low values, it's very strong. So let's try 0.005. Yeah, that's the thing. You want to keep it very, very subtle. But what you also want is this to be negative, because my scratches are white and everything is black. So the scratches are actually coming up. We want it negative. Yeah, there you go. That's better. Okay, let's keep this to 0.05. Like really subtle. You know, like this shouldn't be very strong. Yeah, I think that's okay. Let's see if we can get closer to this. Let me just do like a close. Yeah, there you go. That's the spoon. Let's try one last thing. I want to turn off the gamma just to see what we get. Like what's the difference? I think you'll get lesser scratches. You know, so I'm going to turn that off. You know what? Actually, I like this version. Like don't turn on the gamma. Yeah, I think it looks better without that. Or that decision is up to you. Like you can define, you know, like what you want. Let's keep the gamma. I think it's fine if it's a little more shiny. But yeah, let's try to bring back those sprinkles that we have. So I'm going to just turn on the sprinkles. Yeah, and there you go. So this is the spoon and the sprinkles. Or this is basically how to build like a fairly detailed metal shader in Redshift. Alright, so the only thing left now is to build a shader for the plate. Okay, so we'll take care of that in the next lesson.